First, I think you got to go into it mentally prepared not to have a good season. You got to think that you're up against now a landscape of a game populated by a lot of players who know what they're doing, which wasn't the case when I started. So is this someone in their first season or just someone who's played for a while? Then?
In general.
Okay. So yeah, be mentally prepared to struggle. So don't beat yourself up when things don't go well initially. There's no question that the models help, right? There's no question to me that using something like review or rate my team for the basis of decisions helps, no question. How you use it and to what degree you put weighting on that versus your own opinion based on your analysis of data and your analysis of what you see is up to you. It's all a personal thing, right? I probably have 3 or 4 dials and the models are one of them. And every season I decide to turn it up or turn it down, right? And might do it a bit. So I would say I definitely have models in there as one variable that you use. I definitely use data outside of the models as well. I use the Scout members area. I built it, so I would do, right? So I kind of love that. I still use it today and would recommend getting access to that or data from elsewhere because I think all the models build that in. You want to have your own view of that data.
Pick players that score points. I don't know how you do that. I don't know. Like these days, I use stats quite a lot. I expected goals, expected assists. I never used to use that. I've started using it more. It's probably a better predictor than points and goals and assists. I don't really think about form all that much, and sometimes it hurts, but sometimes it doesn't. Like if a player's good, they're always good if they've got good fixtures. Now, this doesn't always work like that. Like it's very difficult to give evergreen advice for FPL, but I try and ignore stuff like form, use stats. Fixtures are key. I don't believe in form over fixtures. I think fixtures bring form, etc. And obviously, watch my channel.
I think always remember the bigger picture. It's 38 game weeks. I think one of the most important things is how you react to a bad game week or a bad run of 3 or 4 game weeks. Avoiding going on tilt and making emotional decisions. I think the best way to do well at FPL is to do it your way as well. Is whether you like watching games or your stats or people use things like FPL review now or algorithms or AI. It's changed an awful lot in my time in the FPL space, and I've kind of had to change, with it, which is not always easy when you're an FPL dinosaur like I am.
Are you a fan of reviewing them sort of tools?
I'm a fan of everything FPL wise. I love what people do and what people build, and I'm amazed by what these people do. They're a lot more clever than I am, and I think nowadays I was probably stubborn early doors with stuff like that. I remember when expected stats and stuff came out, I was a little bit slower. I was like Jeff Stelling on the Boys on Soccer Saturday, like what, expected stats, come on, what does that even mean? But you read a couple of books. I remember reading the XG Philosophy, the book, a couple of other ones, and you learn and you realize actually these things are really, really useful and you come to respect them. Because I've always been, I enjoy watching games and I like picking things out and making decisions that way. I'll probably always do that first, but I subscribe to Scout. I look at the stats every week there. I subscribe to FPL Review, but my relationship with FPL Review, it's kind of it's part of the all around picture of what I do going into a game week.
Look, sort of medium to long term. I mean, these are real basic things that a lot of people will know, but the basics, sometimes you've got to go back to basics because FPL can go wrong when you complicate things and you go out of your comfort zone a bit. So I look at longish term blocks of 4 to 6 game weeks. What's happening in the next 6 game weeks? When are the fixture swings? Look at underlying stats of players you might be considering.
You're more of a stats or an eye test person, Joe?
Just more stats. Well, a bit of combination of both. This all goes into the mix. Get a player in. Don't get a player in that's a must-have for that week and not the others. Get a player in that you wouldn't mind having in.
No, I would pick 10 accounts, and I could give you those 10 accounts. That'd be quite easy. So you'd want to follow, like, Let's Talk FPL. You'd want to follow FPL Harry. You'd want to follow Ben Krellin, James, Planet FPL. You'd obviously want to follow above average FPL for your entertainment rather than your FPL ability. But
FPL,
so you've picked 10 accounts.
FPL have a beer.
And FPL have a beer, of course, for wonderful Meet the Manager conversations, of course. And then once you've done all that, you have enough information from those 10 accounts to, be better than probably 95% of the game. Like, genuinely, you'd have enough information to be better than 95% of the game.
Being quite dynamic and adaptive. So I think that the more you play FPL, the more you get into a stage of like planning really far in advance and having a really set chip strategy and knowing which players you want to target in which weeks. And I think when you make that transition, that first time you make the transition, you can get a little bit too rigid. Like, I planned to bring in this player in game week 25, so I'm going to stick to it. I knew I was going to play the chip in this week, so I'm going to stick to it. Things change in FPL all the time. You get one injury, one random double announcement, one thing crops up. You should be willing and able to adapt and be quite dynamic to that in FPL. So I'm not saying that you should change on a whim just because one thing's happened to completely bin off your previous plan. But I think the best managers in FPL are quite dynamic and adaptive. Like, I'll use Pras as an example. He went into game week 24, made a transfer, then had to take a hit to reverse a transfer he'd made because the assistant manager chip became available. That's a manager that knows that they have to be dynamic and adapt to new news and wasn't stubborn and sort of set in their ways with their previous plan. So that would be my major advice.
I see FPL review as a friend, an unbiased friend. Like, we have our WhatsApp WhatsApp groups where people say, guys, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Kirkes and Isak, or do you prefer Trent and Raul Jimenez? You've seen these, right? People do this all the time. What are they doing? They're basically crowdsourcing answers, like opinions. But what your WhatsApp group does is, your WhatsApp group, if Kirkes has just scored a goal, you can bet all your house that everybody will say Kirkes plus Isak is the best option because they have a hindsight bias. They have an outcome bias. And so that's a flawed way of checking which option is better. How about you go actually and look at market odds and you say, who has the better goal scoring odds? Is it Isak or Raul Jimenez? Who has the better clean sheet odds? Is it Kirkes or is it Trent? And then using that to get to expected data and basically saying, oh, actually expected data is so similar, I can go with either. Doesn't matter. Or it could be that I'm actually being an idiot here. Like, Kirkes is rubbish. Like, Trent plus Raul Jimenez is way better. And so having an unbiased friend who can give you that opinion, you can disagree with the friend. You can say, look, even though you're telling me this, I'll go against you. I like it. So therefore, I tend to use the unbiased friend in a lot of things. I tend to disagree with that unbiased friend a lot. So in people who know me, who see my team selections, I'm not one of those who had, Bruno Fernandes since game week 1. I'm not one of those that will pick players that I don't generally believe in. I make a lot of mistakes and I'm happy to own up to my mistakes because I want to play the game my own way. But if somebody has given me a complex mathematical puzzle to solve and there is a calculator available, I am going to use the calculator. Yeah. This is not about me proving to people that I'm a guru in maths and I can do it myself, which is the equivalent of people saying, I know my football. I don't need anybody to tell me which one is better. You don't need to do that. This is a game that needs a little bit of mathematical planning.
I think patience would be a big advice tip I would give. Yeah. I'm going to try and be more patient next year. I'm going to try and be slightly less aggressive. I don't know. I like backing against the obvious, and I don't want to stop doing that. But I commit FPL suicide last year when I didn't buy Mo Salah and kept Haaland and kept captain Haaland and didn't even own Salah as a backup. If you're going to go against the big player, still own them. That would be one bit of advice I give. Like, when you want to back against the obvious with captaincy, still own the player. Don't not buy Mo Salah because you're capping Haaland. Like, find a way of owning both and still captain Haaland, even if it's wrong. But own Mo. That was my suicide last year, I think. It'd be to play your own game always. The amount of times people comment, go, "Oh no, I bought that player in because Let's Talk FPL told me to, and he didn't do well." And then you want to blame your favorite content creator. It's like, dude, just because he did it, you don't have to copy. Like, play your own game. Use content creators for advice and for tips, but don't let them make your transfers. Personally, I wouldn't let anything or anyone make your transfers. Like, I think FPL Review, we discussed, it's a great resource a lot of people use. Don't let it make your transfers. Like, don't let it completely decide what you do. Use it as part of your decision-making process, use that information, and information is rich in FPL. Get as much of it as you can, but make your own decisions with transfers.
Yeah, it's a good question. And, there's no hard and fast rule. Like, some people have great success taking loads of hits and, moving players around quite a lot. Other people are much more patient. I mean, it is, and I talk about Nightmare again, but I'm just repeating the stuff he said, but I think he was bang on in the sense that if you look at, generally speaking, the top managers, who finish well every year, they are patient. They're patient managers. They will save a transfer. They will play fairly template. They will captain players based on EO, maybe over just having a gut feeling that a team's going to win 4 or 5-0 or something like that. Because when you start doing things outside of that, then you're adding in variance to it. So if you want to be a steady manager, I think you need to take that into account. Like, what I've tried to do this season and last season, which I'm probably not the best person because I've been bloody awful, but it is try and be a bit more patient. Like, I bought in this player for a reason. Okay, he hasn't performed in the last 2 weeks, but is he, do I need to take him out this week? Or okay, this player has been bought by 400,000 people. Okay, it's Mohamed Salah or Chris Wood, and yes, I should have bought them a lot earlier than I did, but there's other players, bandwagons that happen where we don't need to move that quickly. And I think that's the skill.
Always think medium to long term. I think that's one of the biggest things. When you're making your transfers, think to yourself, if this player blanks this week, would I still be happy to own him next week? And if the answer is yes, then yes, you should be investing in him. If the answer is no, then no, you shouldn't. And this happens all the time. People look at one fixture and think, I have to get this player in. People even take hits for a player just for 1 week. And then they look and go, oh shit, they've now got 3 rubbish games and I've got to play him because I've made all these changes to my team. So if you're happy with them to blank and to still own them, then you should be owning them. The other thing I would say is if you're finding yourself a little bit of a backstep to compared to other players. So if you've got a mini league leader and you're trying to chase him and you're looking at his team, don't think to yourself, you've got to get those players in his team. Think to yourself, what is the next fixture swing going to be? What's the next swing going to be that you can kind of grasp hold of, basically? So, for instance, if nobody owns West Ham players, so Wolves is a good one. Nobody owns Wolves players. They've got beautiful fixtures for 10 weeks. Jump on them early. Get double up, triple up on Wolves and just hope that it works.
All right. I've got I don't know. This is not an advanced tip, but it's kind of taking FPL to the slightly next level tip. I like it. Is to use data. So use data, but apply context to it.
Okay.
So, for example, if you see a player like Son is getting 1 XG per game, for example, he's probably going to score 2 goals because of the quality of the player and the quality of the finisher he is. And someone like Calvert-Lewin, no offense to anyone who's bought in Calvert-Lewin, but 1 XG for Calvert-Lewin is not as worth as much to him as it is to maybe a different player.
The crucial thing is that there's so much noise out there now with conflicting opinions because there are just millions of content creators and millions of people in the community that if you look for anything or any particular argument when you already know internally what you want the answer to be, you will find a piece of content that agrees with you, and then you will use that as the excuse to go there. So 2 points on that. Number 1 is trust a limited but respectable amount of creators that you throw a lot of you hold in high regards and that you trust to give good advice. Whether or not it goes correctly is a completely different matter, but the advice they give them that they give you is based on data that you trust and data that you accept as the right way of playing the game. So have a limited pool of respected creators and people in the community that you listen to, but then also never go into research knowing what you want the answer to be. Go in open-minded, thinking, right, it could be anything from A to Z, and I'll let the research dictate my opinion rather than my opinion dictating the research I look for.
I would probably say make sure with your team that you've always got the best captaincy option most weeks. There's some weeks where it's going to be physically impossible, especially with the pricing structure they've got in the game. But I'd say as long as you've got a player that you feel comfortable captaining every single week or most weeks that you think could deliver big in that week, you're probably going to do quite well.
Exactly the first thing Golden Goal said yesterday as well.
Yeah, captaincy is such a big thing in every fantasy game because you are basically duplicating that player and putting him again in your team. And with the likes of Palmer, Haaland and Salah, on any given game, they could pop off and get a 20 pointer very, very easily. Nothing is stopping them because of the ability they've got. So you imagine not having one of those or having one of those and the difference you're going to make over certain people. And then one of the simple things that I've been doing for the past few years, and it's definitely helped me out, is I've got notes on my phone and I will just plan out transfers for the next few weeks. Like sometimes I won't stick with it because situations change, injuries, stuff like that, whatever. But I think just having a plan of where you'd like to be in the next 5 game weeks or kind of players you'd like to own for certain fixture swings and stuff like that, kind of building that forward for the next few weeks gives you a little bit of vision rather than just looking at sometimes 1 game week. Oh, right. Okay. He's got Ipswich, but post that he's got City, Arsenal away. You're not really thinking more longer term. So I'd say just plan a little bit. Look where you'd like your team to be positioned in 5 game weeks time. Look where you'd like to play a wild card, or look what teams are having good fixtures and maybe scout them a little bit and invest in that kind of period. That'd be probably my advice.
Make good friends. That's my feeling on it. Like I know I say it regularly, but I think, it's not about abstaining your decisions, and it's not about groupthink of decisions. Definitely that's bad for you. But you do have to have good, like anything in life, you do have to have people that you can go talk to about, this is what I'm thinking and why I'm thinking it, and what do you think about that, and can we have a conversation about, or let me at least explain it to you and see whether what I'm saying makes sense. Now it's quite difficult because the person that's receiving that information hasn't done what I'm going to do the week after, what am I going to do the week after, what I'm going to do the week after, and all of those bits. But having people that you can just sound it off with and who will occasionally say to you, don't do that, mate. that's why. Really, really handy. Yeah. Now, sometimes you'll do it and they'll still say, at least you knew. At least you knew. Do you know what I mean? Like I know when I'm being stupid. When I've messaged the likes of Harry or Pras and said, look, I'm doing this, and they've gone, don't do that. And I'm like, well, I know you wouldn't do that, but let me explain why I want to do that. And they say, look, I don't like it, but I kind of see what you're doing. Then you're like, okay, I've not been completely told off it, I'll do it.
I don't know. How do you improve decision making? That's quite an open question, isn't it? I think for those who do feel the stress of it, the bits that you can do to try and alleviate that will help. Like if you're someone who feels the stress of that decision, when you come to make a decision, whatever that is, you're more likely to make the wrong one, I think. If you can be composed at the time you make the decision, you're more likely to get the decision right. So I don't know if there might be an element of that. There's some people who want to absorb like infinite amounts of content and everything they possibly can. And there's other people who be like, oh, I get really confused when I listen to content and stuff. So I don't think there's like a kind of one size fits all for everybody. This works, this doesn't work. It's probably more about managing emotions a little bit, maybe. And if you can just come to terms a bit more, that doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy successes, but don't be too high about the good and don't be too low about the bad, and find a happy medium. We just enjoy the game and enjoy the process, and the outcome will happen.
Use all the tools available to you. Don't follow them blindly. But as I said when I interviewed Tom from Who Got the Assist, FPL Review, I've never seen you sponsored everywhere. If you want to sponsor this channel, you're very welcome. I love FPL Review, and I always use that to check. I don't use it to tell me exactly what transfer to make. But what I will do is see what transfer it wants me to make and see whether or not that, you know, if it has a bet really, if it comes up with something that I haven't thought of and is a much better idea than I have thought of, I will do it, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Often it won't do that. It will just say, you know, maybe I'm going to score a point less if I make this other transfer, but I want to make that transfer because I've looked at the stats or whatever. But I think not using tools like that is just detrimental.